Welcome to the PSETA podcast series. I am Themba Tshabalala. I'm a researcher from the Center for Researching Education and Labor, a research center that's located within the University of the Witwatersrand in the School of Education. What are the skills needs for the public service sector in view of its mandate to deliver public value for citizens? How do we understand the notion of a performing state? How can the public service sector plan more effectively around its skills need? These are some of the questions that we will reflect on in this PSETA podcast series, which is aimed at provoking reflection and action on the challenges that confront the public service sector and the role played by the PSETA in supporting the development of a capable state. Today, we interview Dr. Presha Ramsarup, who is the director of the Real Center. We want to discuss the research partnership between the Real Center and the PSETA. Great that you could join us today, Presha.
Thank you so much for having me, Themba.
So let's get going. Firstly, can you please share with us what was the motivation or the reason behind this research partnership?
I think it's extremely important that public institutions like PSETAs, who are important intermediaries in the skills development space, connect themselves with partners that are involved in thought leadership. And this is a partnership that actually elevates that. So over the last 3 years, Real and PSETA have been involved in quite an exciting research partnership that's actually connecting thought leadership work around skills development to very grounded work around skills in the public sector. And this partnership has sought to support both PSETA in providing more evidence-based research to facilitate skills development within the public sector, to assist them with more effective skills planning, so that it contributes to a competent and capable state. And in the partnership, I think that what it's helped PSETA to think about their role as a skills intermediary, what surfacing skill supply and demand challenges could mean. It's given them more conceptual tools to work with, and it's helped to deepen how they think about this role around skill supply and demand.
What are the key areas of research in the project, and can you highlight the intended impact?
So I think that one of the big impacts, of course, is to have more evidence-based skills development, and I think the partnership facilitates that. A second impact of this kind of relationship is that you get PSETA actually supporting postgraduate work within a university. And that's extremely important because forming this kind of partnership both helps them to fund postgraduate studies, and in the program, it's enabled the funding of both master's as well as PhD studies, but it also helps the broader PSET system to produce more relevant research that can go back. So it gives students involved in postgraduate work access into more grounded, real-world problems that become the focus of their research. But over the period of our partnership, our work has had 5 different streams, and I will tell you a little bit about these 5 streams of work. The first stream of work was around improving the uptake of e-learning in the public sector, and what this work attempted to do was to surface challenges surrounding better use of e-learning as a tool for education and training. It worked with trying to understand some of the actors and the processes that are involved in e-learning within the public sector, and it actually worked with public sector stakeholders to actually produce an assessment tool which government departments can actually use to examine and investigate the effectiveness of e-learning programs within the public sector. So that was one stream of work, and I'm sure you can see how useful that could be to the public sector. The second stream of work, which is quite an important stream of work, both for PSETA, but as well as for the broader PSET sector, because as you would know, the PSET sector in the country is organized around occupations. And this stream of work looked at the relationship between jobs, occupations, and qualifications. While the context of the investigation was the public sector, the lessons around the relationships between jobs, occupations, and qualifications are important lessons for the broader PSET institution. So in this stream of work, we actually looked at mapping and understanding the links between jobs, occupations, and qualifications. We looked at a framework of how mapping occupations to qualifications could work and what are some of the elements that need to be considered. Another important stream of work that we are doing in this research partnership is around a review of professional competence frameworks and how professional competence frameworks are being used in the public sector. What the study was doing is that it explores currently utilized competence frameworks, because competence frameworks, as you know, are extremely popular. But there's very little thought into what they can do and what they can't do. What is it that these frameworks are able to do for the state and what they're not able to do? And that's what this piece of work actually helped to do, and through the research work, it helped to engage with the different public sector competency frameworks, to interrogate them together with public stakeholders, and then to actually come up with some kind of feedback around how these can be used and can't be used. And then another stream of work that's very important, again, for PSETA, but also for the broader PSET system, is a critical review of supply and demand processes in the public sector. So this research will focus on mapping the processes and mechanisms of public service skills development and planning systems. So it kind of looks at what are the processes, in what ways are they aligned, flexible, responsive, how can we make it more agile so that we get a more responsive, capable state and the kind of skill system that can facilitate and support this. So those are some of the kind of core areas of work that this research partnership is currently engaged in.
Thank you so much. A very robust research partnership there. How would this partnership with REAL and PSETA contribute towards knowledge development?
Yeah, I think that the point of a research chair is to actually look forward and to take knowledge development forward, to raise and elevate what we know about a particular area. And I think that the work that this chair has produced around occupations, both in terms of policy context and broader the theoretical ideas around occupations, has already proven to be extremely useful. So the kind of different theoretical dimensions of occupations, how occupations can be deliberated and understood, has been extremely useful. The work on competency frameworks is also, so it kind of helps to bridge the colloquial knowledge of what competence framework could be and how we're utilizing it, but what are some of the theoretical schools of thought that's actually working with competence frameworks, and how, by analyzing how South Africa is using it, we can actually start to build a more rigorous and robust framework that we can understand competence frameworks with. I think the other element where we make an important contribution to knowledge is in shifting the ideas of skills planning to beyond supply and demand, and what demand actually means. And against the framework of a capable state, how we can and should be looking at skills supply and demand, and where some of the lock-ins, if I can call them lock-ins, in the processes are in the state system, and how these lock-ins, what's involved in them, who's working in these spaces, and how we can start to unpack and move forward so that we have a more robust skill system. It's really elevated thinking both within the center, in postgraduate work, as well as in general in the PSET sector.
Thank you so much. Finally, what for you have been some of the key learnings for the REAL Center in terms of replicating this type of partnership with other SETAs other than the PSETA?
I think that what it's given us a very useful experience on how to connect context and big ideas. So how to work with big theoretical ideas in grounded contexts. And like I've said, while some of them have been very grounded in the public sector, the kind of work and the theoretical work and the thinking that went in is much bigger. So it's given us that kind of rigorous way of moving from top to bottom and actually connecting macro and micro, connecting context-driven knowledge with kind of theoretical knowledge. I think it's also given us important lessons on how postgraduate students can work within these research partnership contexts. And that's important. If we want to build, especially young Black professionals, and we want to encourage them to enter the skills development space and build community of researchers who understand skills development, we need to find avenues where they can be supported and how they can be supported. And likewise, their research supporting to strengthen the post-school sector in South Africa as well. I think the research has also taught us as a center on how to communicate our research better into the PSET system. I think we've paid a lot of attention on multiple levels on what can we lift from these broad reports that actually can help policymakers, that can help stakeholders in the PSET sector, and how to do that process and think through those things within a research project has been extremely useful.
Thank you so much, Presha, for sharing your thoughts and your observations around the importance of this research partnership with the PSETA.
Thanks, Themba. It was great chatting to you today.